you are interested in doing the meditations.
Yes.
So we want to kind of like walk you through what that process is and what to kind of like look for. And then what you will get after this call is I'll drop you into an email sequence that will have the guided meditation.
Okay.
So then you can listen to it on your laptop or on your phone anytime,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the meditation itself is really more of a concept rather than a set meditation.
Okay.
So by that, I mean, once you've learned it, you don't have to follow my guided version of it. You can just create your own.
I see. Yes.
The goal really is that you could do it for one breath while you're stuck at a stoplight.
Mm-hmm.
Or do it for 30 minutes when you have some time to sit down and really do more of a meditation. You're out for a hike in nature. You just had a stressful day. You want to wind down,
Yes.
whatever it is. But my goal for everybody that's doing the program is for you to feel like you just have a tool you can draw upon, and you can use that tool a lot, meaning you could meditate for 30 minutes, or you could use that tool a little for 2 breaths or for 3 breaths. Because then it's really practical. It's something that you can just draw upon at any point in time.
It could diffuse a moment.
Exactly. So I use it. If I'm triggered, if I'm stressed, I may go sit and do it as a practice.
Yes.
But I also use it when I'm in the acupuncture clinic, because when I'm going to feel somebody's pulses or I'm going to needle, I want to make sure that I'm as present as possible when I'm treating them.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I can do it for just 1 breath, not because I'm triggered, not because of anything that's going on, simply because I just want to show up better.
Yeah, it centers you more.
Yes. Yeah. And that's really the essence of the practice, because in the Chinese have an interesting, most of this stuff comes from Taoism, but the Chinese have an interesting perspective on sort of the human journey. And they break the body into a trinity where we have our physicality, our emotional self, and then our connection to spirit, something divine greater than us. And their belief is that if we can't ground ourselves in our physical body, it's hard for us to contain our emotional experience.
Okay.
And if we can't contain our emotional experience, how are we supposed to connect into something that is bigger than us when we can't even contain ourselves?
Yeah.
So if we can't feel safe within ourselves, it's hard for me to feel safe with you. It's hard for me to open my heart to you and have a genuine or authentic relationship. And if I don't have a genuine or authentic relationship with myself, how am I supposed to develop a genuine or authentic relationship with God? Is sort of the way to kind of break those 3 apart.
Okay.
And so this practice is really finding a way to use our physical body to contain our mental body or our emotional body. All the thoughts, all the emotions, all the sort of downstream cascade of just what, I don't know if you've heard of the expression called a monkey mind.
No.
So in Buddhism, they call the mind a monkey mind because it's like a monkey jumping around in a tree.
Yes. Okay.
And so this practice is designed to get the monkey to calm down, basically. I often use the expression that our mental body or our emotional body is kind of like a toddler. It's just not quite developed enough to contain everything it's experiencing. So it's kind of chaotic.
Yes.
And we're just trying to kind of let things settle in and start to feel more stable, because we can't really take away the external factors that are the triggers. Somebody cuts us off in traffic. We have work stressors. We have relationship stressors. They're going to happen. So we just want our resilience to those things to be stronger.
Okay.
And that's really the gist of the practice. We are trying to bring ourselves into the body and just hang out there. And what will happen
Repeat that sentence. Bring ourselves
into our body
into our body. Yes. Okay.
and just hang out with our body. We just return to the body. So in the meditation, you focus on 2 points. That's why it's called the 2-point awareness.
Yes.
One is your feet upon the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and one is the breath in your chest coming and going. But your focus is really on the physical feeling of your feet upon the ground, the physical feeling of the breath coming and going. So we're not just imagining our feet, we're really trying to sort of feel all the nerve endings of your feet as it's resting upon the ground, really. And then as you breathe, you're trying to feel how the ribs expand and how the ribs contract. And you're trying to sort of dive deep into the physical sensations that are there. And the reason for that is that the more you focus on the physical sensations, the less the mind can be active, because the mind is occupied, right? And what happens to all of us, myself, and really truly everyone, is that the mind will wander. A thought will come in. I'll think about the weather. I'll think about the neighbor's dog. I'll think about this thing or that thing. And that's completely okay. Most of us, when we try to do a concentration practice like this, or a focus practice like this, our mind wanders and then we beat ourselves up because we're like, oh, my mind is wandering again. My mind is wandering and I'm not doing it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you are doing it correctly. When your mind wanders, that's completely okay.
Okay. Yes.
The goal of the practice is simply to catch I went off and I was thinking about the neighbor's dog again. And then I come back to my feet. I come back to the breath. The actual most important part of the practice that you want to do right, if we're going to put a right or a wrong there,
Yes.
is the coming back process, not the staying process.
Yes.
So every time you catch yourself having drifted, as long as you come back, you're actually succeeding.
Okay.
And you want to give yourself credit for that, because that really, they've done research and they've actually shown that that's the most powerful part.
Aha.
So where most of us go wrong is we beat ourselves up for having drifted off, but really we just want to give ourselves credit for the returning.
Yes.
And I often describe it, if you think of the habits that we have, the way that we've learned to cope with the world and manage the world becomes like a superhighway, 10 lanes across, 20 lanes across, because we take that same route to process life all the time. And that road is really smooth and it's really wide and it gets a lot of traffic. And right now you're trying to take a dirt trail and it's bumpy and it's small. And each time you come back into the physical body, you're taking that dirt trail and you're smoothing it out a little bit. And it starts to get a little bit wider and it starts to get a little bit more paved. And many of the practices from East Asia are multifaceted. So they're working on multiple levels at the same time. Which is really wonderful because you don't have to do one exercise and then another exercise and then another exercise. You just do one and it addresses everything.
Right.
And so when I find myself drifting down the pathway of my thoughts and I choose to come back to the physical body, one is that I strengthen that new road. I make that new road a little bit smoother, a little bit wider, a little bit easier for me to travel on. And at the same time, I begin to damage or break down the old road.
Okay.
Which is indulging the thoughts and going down the rabbit hole of what my mind obsesses over or gets caught up in. And so each time you do the returning, you're deconstructing the old ways as you're constructing the new ways. So you're getting a 2-for-1 benefit out of it.
Okay.
Which is nice.
Yeah, rebuilding.
Yeah. You're just like, going forward, I'd rather take the road to the left versus the road to the right.
Yes. There's an old gag. If you see a fork in a road, take it.
Right?
I disconnected here. What should I do?
Oh, I hear you. You're fine.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Everything seems okay.
I can't see you.
You can't see me.
Yeah.
Huh. You can hear me though.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can hear you and I can see you, so maybe it will come back on.
Okay.
In a second.
I got the Zoom ad on. Zoom leads, crowds, momentum report, video conferencing, crowd. Read the report. I don't have anything to be able to go in. Should I go back to the page?
Yeah. I see you just fine right now.
Okay.
In the bottom left of your screen, does it say anything in terms of like muting or video or anything like that?
No, there's nothing like that's what I'm looking. I have, if nothing, prompts from browser, download and run Zoom.
But you can't see me. Fascinating. You can try logging out and then logging back in, clicking on the link again. The invitation link.
Ah, I see. Yes. Are you still there?
I am still here. Yeah.
Yeah. I clicked on the again, and I miss you. Go ahead. I'll try that. Yeah, but I can hear you. That's the most.
You can hear me. Okay. Are there any questions with it that I can answer for you that are on your mind? And do you have the practice itself? It can be done for just a general sense of anxiety,
Yes.
meaning I'm just, we all have that, right? Every single person in sort of the modern world, we have a lot on our plate. So we have a generalized anxiety or buzz or hyperactivity that runs through us. And so this practice is good on that very general level to help just settle everything. People can do this type of practice right before bed if you have insomnia, because it's very calming to the mind. So it will help to sort of settle you down at the end of the day. And we can do it for a more acute emotional trigger or more acute anxiety type of thing. So say I have a fear of public speaking and I know I have a public speaking event, I could do this beforehand, or I could do this on a regular basis working with my fear of public speaking.
Yes.
So I ask everyone, do you have something that you feel like is a specific trigger for you, or is it more that you're looking to work with just sort of like helping the nervous system to settle and kind of drop into a more peaceful or zened out sort of space?
Yeah, the general one isn't bad, but I know my specific trigger at this point.
Okay.
It's been for a while, and that's as a father, as I think I alluded to that with you a little earlier. As a father, I can't keep telling my two daughters that a father's right is to worry about them. And we joke about that a little bit. However, it is true. That's probably my biggest trigger.
Okay.
Is worrying about my daughters, and I'll use the word concern and worry synonymously. However, in my case, it's probably more worry.
And how does the worry affect you? Like, what do you experience physically when you have the worry? How does it get in the way of life, or how does it become sort of a burden to you?
Oh, sometimes if a specific thing kind of occurred to one of my, nothing serious. Serious. It's maybe something that's important to them or something. I can get a little knot in my stomach, but I mostly get upset, irritated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of the worry. So you feel the worry and then you get irritated.
I'm not irritated at them. I'm irritated that, I'm really worried now. I hope things go well, and that irritates me.
Okay. So then it's a great example, and a common one for parents, of course, because that is your job in a sense, because they are your daughters and you're probably somewhat fond of them and would like them to be happy and well.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is we try to separate out the thinking pattern of worrying about them
Mm-hmm.
and the physical sensations you experience when you are worried about them, because they're two very separate things.
Separate the thinking pattern and the what?
And the physical sensations that are in your body.
Yes, right.
And what you're going to do in the practice is you're going to say no to the thoughts and you're going to say yes to the physical body.
Okay, yes.
So as an example, say, since you think of daughter number 1 or daughter number 2 or daughter number 500, depending on how many children you have, right? And you're worried about daughter number 1 because her puppy ran away, right? And you're worried about how that's going to play out
Mm-hmm.
and how it's going to affect her and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to get the thought patterns of worrying. What you want to do is to catch that as soon as possible. Say, okay, I'm not going to indulge going down the rabbit hole of analyzing the situation.
Right.
Because as we analyze something when we are emotionally triggered, our thinking patterns are not so clear. We're in a sort of fight, flight, freeze space. And what ends up happening is we reinforce our worst case scenarios.
And that's what I do. I don't analyze. I look at the worst case.
Yes, and you are
like this will,
human.
And I don't say this might happen. In my head, I say this will happen.
Yes, you're human like the rest of us in that way. That's what we all do. So what we want to do is to recognize that's a normal but non-beneficial pattern.
Yes, of course.
Right? So we say no to that pattern, and instead we come back into our physical body to see, well, what is my body feeling right now? And so what I would do in a situation like that is I would, as I said earlier, the meditation itself is you feel your feet on the ground, you feel your breath in the chest, right?
Yes.
So I would do those two things, get that awareness, and then I would internally sort of feel, where do I feel tension in my body? Where do I feel agitation in my body? So that might be in your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
That might be in your chest. It might be in your shoulders.
Yes.
It might be in your head, right? All the different places we can kind of hold some tension.
Yeah.
And then as you're sitting there and feeling your feet upon the ground, you bring the breath into the area that you feel the tension. So say you feel it in the pit of your stomach. Instead of feeling the breath in your chest, you now begin to breathe around the physical sensation.
Yes.
That is created by that thought pattern.
So low breath or high breath or
exactly
left breath or a right breath.
Exactly correct. Yes. And all we're trying to do is let the breath move your physical body until that physical sensation changes. Okay. And that might be a minute, it might be 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes. You're not trying to force it, you're just breathing and hanging out with that until you feel a physical change in how your body is experienced, right?
Now, when you're worried at night and you're not, you're lying there and you're not sleeping, mm-hmm. That's not really a physical sensation as much as it's a mental one.
Correct.
Your breath then would be centered on what?
Would be the chest and the sensation of your feet.
It's still
the basic one.
General breathing.
Exactly, because you're not having a very specific reaction.
Right. Okay.
And what will happen is as your physical body begins to shift, right, the tension in your stomach begins to shift, the mind will automatically begin to shift.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a sneaky way to deal with what's happening.
Now, your feet can be planted, like if you're lying on your back in your bed and your knees are up, your feet can be planted on your mattress as well as on the floor.
Yes, or you could just feel, if you're laying on your back, you could just feel your back on the bed. Your feet on your heels on the bed. You don't have to You can
I
really
see.
adapt it.
I see. Yes, I understand. Yeah.
Um,
It
and
doesn't have to be the solid floor.
no, exactly. In the symbology of Chinese medicine, they view humans in this special place between heaven and earth.
Hmm.
We stand upon the earth, but we connect into heaven via the breath.
Hmm.
And so this type of meditation is done to help us reestablish your connection to the earth,
Yeah.
which supports us from underneath, and heaven, which represents the grace of the divine, and how that supports us from
Our
above.
our natives here, our Aboriginals, do
Mhm.
that too. That's why they smoke the pipe. That's
Yeah, exactly.
same idea. Yeah.
And so when we feel something in our body that's unpleasant, say you get a knot in the pit of your stomach,
Hmm.
and you're bringing the breath into there, one way to interpret that is you're asking for the grace of heaven to come in and move that area that is stuck
With the breath.
with the breath, because that's what the breath represents. It represents our connection to heaven.
Yeah. So you're asking for the grace of heaven to do what again?
To move that physical pit in your stomach.
Okay. To move the actual physical, yeah.
Yeah.
What sensation?
Mm-hmm. And again, the whole point basically is to keep saying yes to the body and keep saying no to the thinking patterns, the obsessing patterns, the repetitive rabbit hole of thoughts that we go down.
Yes.
And that's really the gist of the practice. We just keep saying no to the physicality, or to the mental part, and yes to the physicality. And as we do that every single day, it becomes a habit, like anything, right? If we do something every single day, it gets easier and we get better at it. So if you're learning to ride a bicycle, it's hard at first, but if you ride that bicycle every single day, at the end of a month, especially if you're doing it twice a day, it's not that hard to do.
Right.
And that's really the reason in Chinese medicine, our emotional experiences are stored in the blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so we think of it, even in the English vernacular, we'll say somebody is hot-blooded.
Yes.
Or they've got cold in the blood. They're timid, or they're hyperactive, right?
Yes.
And the blood follows the cycle of the moon, like a woman's menstrual cycle.
Yes.
And so this practice is done for the course of a month to help integrate the emotional body more deeply. And that's why we do it for 1 month.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a reason behind it being 28 days, the cycle of a moon.
Okay.
But it's a good reminder that this is something that takes time to really build into your system.
Well, of course, like any other habit or good practice.
Good or bad, right?
Yes. Oh, yes, of course.
And that's really like the gist of it is we begin the process of observing how our body is physically reacting. And each time you catch yourself in a thought pattern and you begin the process of feeling into your body, where is the tension, you'll start to be able to see it more and more rapidly.
Yes.
And in the beginning, it may take you 10 minutes of breathing to get that area of tension to let go. But as you've done it many times, you'll find that 1 breath or 3 breaths may be enough to help shift everything.
Yes.
And for myself, my goal is not to be somehow superhuman and not react to the world.
Yes.
My goal is to not be caught by my reactions, to not be overwhelmed by them. And that's really what this practice is.
Not be what by them?
Overwhelmed by them.
Overrun, yes.
Yes. And that's really what this practice is about, is developing something within yourself that allows you to cope with whatever gets thrown at you.
Yes.
And as you mentioned with the native cultures of Canada, really most native cultures and most historical cultures felt that same concept of feeling their feet upon the ground and their connection to heaven, and realized that there was something, when we felt those two things simultaneously, we were just in a better space.
If you watch their dance too, our Plains natives here I work with, I've been working with some for quite a few years, not directly, but indirectly. And their dancing is like that because their feet
Stomp.
Yeah, they're stomping on ground. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what made me think of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You see it in a lot of native cultures, or in a lot of historical cultures.
Yes.
This deep value for remaining connected to both below us and above us.
Yes.
And this practice stems from that same sort of principle. Again, it doesn't take away the fact that you care about your daughters. That would be unhealthy to take that care away.
Of course,
right?
It's to center it more. I
Yeah.
realize that. Yeah, I know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I'm having difficulty balancing it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really the gist of it. Again, you'll get some emails that will have the guided meditation and instructions for what that should be like. And there'll be a recording, so you can just listen to the recording and follow along.
Yes.
And then see how it flows. And then what we'll do is, in a couple of weeks, we'll have another call and kind of see how the process is integrating, see where you're getting stuck, and help refine how to best just keep refining it,
Yes.
and hopefully step it out to where you can do it while you're driving the car, or while you're cooking dinner, or while you're walking the dog, or anything like that.
So basically you could be doing this many times a day.
Yeah, that would actually be, I think, more the goal. Is it something you almost do all the time without having to think about it, because then you're just more adaptable.
Yeah, that becomes the automatic response instead of the anger or the tension.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really, for me, that's really the goal. It's a stepping stone to then, if we want to look at where things come from, we want to do psychoanalysis of ourselves, our family history, our traumas, how we were raised. We can do all of that stuff, but until we're grounded within ourselves, it's hard to do that work and have it really hold. And a lot of the things that are our triggers that we could go off and analyze, once we're grounded, they kind of fall away. And so for me, this makes a very good foundation, because some of the things that we think are our issues will actually disappear. And if there are things that are deeper, that are more traumatic, that we're trying to work through, we'll be more prepared to work through them once we've developed this foundation as well.
Yes.
It's sort of in the mythology of the Buddha, or the idea of within Buddhism, they say that Buddha was sitting there trying to do his meditation and become enlightened, and Mara, who was a tempter, would show up and tempt the Buddha. And every time Mara would show up, the Buddha would say, "I see you, Mara, come have a cup of tea with me." And my understanding of that mythology is Mara represents our inner world, the emotions that we experience, the things that are unpleasant to us. And what we really want to be able to do is, every time we catch ourselves having an unpleasant emotion, we don't want to run from it. We don't want to indulge it. We just want to sit down with it and figure out what's really going on here.
Okay.
But to do that, we need a certain degree of fortitude, a certain degree of groundedness and security. And I'm sure you can relate to that as a father, in the sense that when your daughters come to you for help, you want to be grounded and centered to help them.
Yes.
And we want to be able to do that for ourselves.
Exactly. And not react to something they might say or do.
Yeah, right. So if your daughter, is 7 and she falls and scrapes her knee, you want to be grounded when she comes to you crying because she scraped her knee. You don't want to be caught up in the drama of the scrape. And this practice helps us to develop that resilience, so that we can be like the Buddha. And every time we see our emotions, we can catch them and be like, okay, I see you. Let's sit down and have a cup of tea together.
Mm-hmm. I like that analogy of a Buddha on Mara.
Yeah, it's a good one. I use it quite a bit because
Yes.
I notice in myself, as well as in my clients, a lot of the things that we experience, they're just not pleasant.
Yes.
And we pull back from them, which is completely understandable. But regrettably, the pulling back doesn't make them go away. So
Yes.
we're still stuck with them.
Yes.
Any questions that I can answer for you?
The tea that is part of your program, what does it do? Does it just relax the person?
It helps make that process smoother.
Okay.
It makes it easier. So like when we have a trigger, if we think of ourselves and the trigger as two little figurines, if the trigger is really big, the figurine of the trigger, the monster, seems really, really big and we seem really small.
Yes.
And what the tea does is it helps to shrink the size of that trigger. It helps to reduce the intensity of it. In the language of Chinese medicine, it takes some of the heat or some of the fire out of the charge that we're experiencing, so that it makes it easier for us to sit with Mara, right? If Mara is really scary, it's hard for us to sit with Mara. If my fear is really intense, if my anger is really intense, it's understandably very difficult to sit with that discomfort. And as you do the meditation, you'll develop more resilience to sit with it. But sometimes making that monster smaller makes the process easier for us.
Okay, so you don't scare me, sit down and have tea with me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really the essence of what that tea does. It really helps to calm the mind so that we just feel a little more grounded as we're sitting in the presence of whatever it is that is challenging to us.
Okay.
It's bitter. It's really quite pleasant. Most people, by the third or fourth cup, they actually end up really enjoying the flavor of it.
I've tasted it just to taste it.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's 3 herbs. It's a formula written by a real person, who is considered in Chinese mythology, considered the god of medicine. It's a human who was just an exceptionally well-known doctor, very famous for having written many books, and this is one of his formulas. He was also a Taoist, and it is a formula used for meditation and mindfulness practice to help us have that cup of tea with Mara, literally having a cup of tea.
Now, say if I take a cup of tea that morning, is it, in a sense, supposed to kind of, I'll use the word last.
Yeah.
Is it supposed to last the whole day?
Well, it's interesting in that if we think of the practice following that cycle of a moon, of a month, over the course of a month, new neurological pathways get built, old neurological pathways get broken down. If we think of the 2 roads, right? Then the tea helps that process.
Yes.
So at first, the first time you do the meditation, the first time you drink the tea, the impact is fairly small. But when you drink the tea on a daily basis over the course of a month, the impact gets deeper and wider within your body, so it lasts longer and longer.
But it's supposed to pair with the meditation. Yeah,
the idea would be that you would put the essential oils on the point, you would drink the tea, and then you would do the meditation.
Yes.
And what ends up happening is over the course of a month, it really becomes sort of internalized and becomes just part of you.
Yes.
I still use the tea, but I use it very irregularly, because the process has been ingrained in me that I don't need it.
Yes. So why would you still take the tea?
I use it for 2 reasons. If I have something that is particularly stressful and I feel like I could use some help,
Okay.
It helps me to kind of lean into the difficult spaces.
Yeah.
And then I will do it maybe once a month as just a general idea to help me make sure that I'm not missing anything that's building up.
Yes.
Because we all have a certain amount of tension that builds up. And so to have a ritual pattern where we go and we do a little bit of call it an emotional cleanse, where I'm doing something, I'm taking my normal practice and I'm making it a little bit more intense.
Yes.
I use the tea in that way as well.
Do you think that I should start the regimen of the tea?
I think everyone should, but I drank that Kool-Aid a long time ago, so I'm very biased. But that really, I came to know the tea going through some difficult emotional challenges in my life, and it really helped me when I needed the help. I really look at the tea kind of like training wheels.
Like
training wheels on a
training
bicycle.
Wheels. Yes.
And like when we're first learning to ride a bicycle, the training wheels, they're not necessary, but they really do help.
Yes, right.
And we want to get away from using them. We don't want to keep them on the bicycle.
Right.
But in the beginning, it just makes the process a lot easier.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea of the program is like, how can we make this process smoother and easier and make having that cup of tea with Mara less intimidating?
Yes.
And it really, consistently, it works really quite beautifully. So I'm a huge fan of it, both in myself and what I've seen in my patients as well. So I'm always the type to be like, if you're going to do it, just go all in and do the full experience, because I think we just get more.
Yes.
That way. It's completely safe with any other sort of medications, and the amount you're taking medicinally is so small because we're using a low dose of it.
Yes.
The chance of it interacting with medications is exceptionally small.
Contraindications are minimal.
Yes. Yeah. On the realm of medications, the most sensitive of medications would be blood thinners like Coumadin or warfarin.
Yeah.
And even at this dosage, I honestly wouldn't worry about it because it's such a small amount.
Okay.
And Coumadin and warfarin are actually very sensitive, but also easy to adjust.
Okay.
And outside of that, it's really, there's not much to be concerned about.
Okay.
And I'm happy to drop some in the mail to you, or if you would like to get some, we can coordinate with Melanie around that. And
sure. Yes.
Or she can give you some of hers, and you can ad lib that way as well.
Yeah. Carolyn, my other daughter, has some.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right, because you're in different parts. Yeah.
Yes. Could I? Yes. Could I just taste a little of hers and see?
Yeah, you could take.
Although I don't want to mess with the program, but.
Yeah, I don't know how much she'll end up needing the tea as part of her journey.
Yes, exactly. No, I don't want to. Yeah, exactly. Take her supply away.
Yeah, probably the easiest thing to do is simply just to post some to you.
Yes,
but you can do the meditation without it.
I understand. Yes.
And I always recommend, do the meditation regularly, but then also when you catch yourself in a more triggered space, when that agitation is there, catch it and be like, oh, I'm feeling that right now. Yeah. And then go do the meditation.
Yes.
So you can see how it impacts you as well.
Could you take the tea in the evening? Would it disrupt sleep cycles?
Actually, it will help with sleep because it helps to calm the mind.
Okay.
So one of the practices for Caroline actually was to do it before bed, so that her mind can calm down more and she can sleep better.
Yes.
And so, a side benefit of both the meditation and the tea would be that they'll help you to sleep better.
Yes.
They're not specifically an insomnia formula per se,
Yes.
but they will help you drop deeper in and the mind to be a little less active.
It's nice that she's in a program too. They're coming for supper, her and her husband tonight, so we can compare notes and perhaps encourage one another.
Yes, that's wonderful. You can be meditation buddies.
Exactly right. Yes.
You can send each other texts and be like, "Hey, did you do your practice today?"
Exactly. We can. What is it? Not just encourage one another. Well, I was going to use the word push one another, but that's not.
Inspire.
Inspire. That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Could you send me some?
Yeah, absolutely.
And however that fits in my program, and of course financially and stuff. That's not a problem for me. So we can.
When are you seeing Caroline?
Tonight.
Tonight. Okay. So then maybe what we could have you do is take some of hers,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll send you some. And then when you get it, you can give some of yours back to her.
Ah, okay.
That way you can start using it right away.
Yes.
And then you two, since you live in the same town, can just share some of it back so that she doesn't run out.
Sure.
And then
yes.
you won't have a scoop, but you can look. I believe the scoop that comes with the tea is about the size, a little bit less than a half teaspoon.
Half teaspoon. Okay.
Of a baking teaspoon, right? I'm measuring a half.
Yes.
So somewhere between a quarter and a half teaspoon would be your dosage per cup of tea.
Okay. And a cup, a regular mug of tea.
8-10 ounces of hot water, yeah.
10 ounces of water, okay.
Yeah. And then you would simply sip that tea and then do the meditation.
If just to diffuse the taste a little bit, could we throw a little bit of lemon juice or something in it?
No. You actually want it, if you want to diffuse the taste, just add a little bit more water.
Okay.
But lemon will change sort of the impact of it. Yeah.
I understand. Yes.
Yeah. So try to just do the tea. You can do 12 ounces of water, 14 ounces of water.
Yes.
Or you can do a quarter teaspoon and still 10 ounces versus a half teaspoon and 10 ounces.
Yes.
And that will make it more mild.
Yes. Good. So nothing to diffuse the,
You could try.
That was just a question. No, I'm okay with that. That was just something to do. No sugar or cream or anything.
Yeah, no cream for sure. I would try to just hang out with it. I think you'll find that after having it a few times, it will be somehow a comforting flavor. That's pretty consistent across the board. Most people are like, at first it's bitter, and then they're like, oh, I actually kind of like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is sort of the, as you know, the first time I'm trying to sort of teach this stuff online with a little less active involvement.
Yes.
So make note of what parts are easy and what parts are challenging and how I can make it easier for you, because I want the program to be, truly helpful.
Yes.
So
Melanie has already, again, with quotations, hired me on to help her with some details.
Wonderful.
For whatever I feel or see she'd like to know.
Yeah.
As feedback, and I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, please do. My skin is not thin whatsoever, and I really do care that this is helpful for people.
And a bit of my misunderstanding too. I thought this was a program that's been going on for a while, but this is just kind of starting out, right?
Yeah, I've taught this stuff in person.
Yes.
For a long time. I've used it with many of my patients, but I haven't done it in this sort of online format before. And so it's a little more hands-off.
Yes.
And I'm trying to figure out the best way to reach more people and help more people when you don't happen to live in San Diego and come to me for acupuncture treatments. So.
And I did like, as a beginning, as you saw some of the challenges I had getting on, I've expressed that with Melanie just to see, our generation here, the baby boomers, may find some of the technology challenging.
I find the technology challenging.
So I found, I was doing that. Like if I were a, regular person, what would I find challenging about this? So I've given her some details already.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's great with the technology.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, well, there's these little buttons and baby boomers, weren't born with this like you guys were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I know some baby boomers who don't even have, they don't even want to touch a cell phone.
Yeah.
How rare that is, but it still exists.
It does.
Yeah.
Do not go gentle into that good night, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yes. Uh-huh. And when when I talk to them about, do FaceTime with Melanie, you know what FaceTime is?
Yeah.
Yeah. They said, you do that? They think I'm a technological wizard.
Cutting edge.
Yes, exactly. So when I had some problems getting on here this week, there were some things that I outlined that said, yeah, this could be challenging to people you want to
Okay.
find. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I figured, she said, because I was getting a little not irritated with you, but saying, if this is a program that's going to help, you're going to irritate people.
Exactly.
And I took my my initial reaction to say, people are not going to relax with this if the challenge is to just get into the program.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we want that part to be smooth.
Exactly.
Well,
because it defeats the purpose.
Yeah, exactly. As you go through it, if things come up, feel free to email me. If you have questions, you'll start getting the automated emails later today. They'll start coming in, and that will it should have all the instructions that you need and the guided meditation and everything. But if anything gets stuck, feel free to just email me at any point in time.
Good. And Melanie has opened that up too. She said to let her know because it helps her.
Yeah.
And of course, directly helps you too.
Yeah.
She wanted me to do that with her, so I'll use her as my point person.
Okay. Perfect.
And she's okay with that. And she, as a matter of fact, she was very happy to have some input.
Wonderful. And then we should set up a time for a second call.
Okay.
Normally I would do it in 2 weeks, so that would be the 31st of August. Would that work for you?
Yes, that looks good.
Shall we do 11 a.m. again?
11 your time?
Yes.
Well, 12 noon is a perfect round number for me. Yes.
Okay. I will send you another invitation, electronic invitation like you got for this one with the link.
Yeah.
And you'll get that shortly. And if all goes well, I will speak to you in 2 weeks.
And do just like we did today.
Exactly.
And I'll try to figure out why I missed your connection. I think I hit my mouse, but we'll see.
Okay.
But I heard you. Thank you very much. I took a lot of your time here. I hope I didn't overextend it.
Not a problem at all. I'm really happy to connect and to be sharing this with you. So it's all good.
Thank you very much. And I'll look forward to the tea, and I'm anxious to start that. Oh, that was my question. Should we do a habit of drinking it at a habit of same time every day?
No, I mean, if you can do the practice twice a day, morning and evening, that's great. But if you find the middle of the day is better for you, by all means, change it up. Just have the regularity of doing it.
Now, if you've had the tea in the day and you have a a problem later on in the day, can you take tea a second time or not?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That would be definitely the goal, is to learn to use it as needed.
No overdose.
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, if you drank the whole bottle of tea, you'd have an upset stomach and probably some diarrhea, but it's really quite safe.
Yeah, I suppose you don't want to get into a situation where you have to take the tea 2 or 3 times a day, and because that's defeating the purpose of the meditation. Yeah,
we want to look at what's going on and why that need is there at that point.
Not using the tea as a magic bullet.
No, but when I was first using it, I drank it twice a day, occasionally 3 times a day, because I was under a lot of stress and it's completely fine.
And then you wound it down a little more.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Those are good points. Thank you. Thank you very much for connecting with me. Thank you for your patience throughout all this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I look forward to speaking in a couple of weeks.
Yes, I'm very glad we touched base.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and your input. Good day. Bye-bye.
Cheers.